Peace. What's good? How y'all doing? Today is Friday, June 27, 2025. I pray that this message reaches you all in the best of health, spirit, and mind. I pray that my voice is strong and coming through clearly. Actually, maybe I should. I'm going to turn this down just a little bit. I have my phone right next to me and I've been working, and the frequency music is a vibe. But I also don't want it to be competing with my voice. But that's 528 hertz, also known as the love frequency. And you can see from the image on the screen, in reference to chi and life force energy or prana, which we are going to talk about a little bit more. But you can see that energetic resonance behind me. And that picture, I am originally seated at Stone Mountain in Georgia, right outside of Atlanta, Georgia, which is absolutely an energy vortex, as is LA, an energy vortex, which I've talked about in previous videos. But we, as human beings, are also energy vortexes, and depending on how strong our signal is, how strong our energetic resonance is, right? How strong the power of our mind, the power of our, willpower, so to speak, the ability to say, be, and it is, to consciously create our realities, right? If you are one of those people, as we all have been at certain points in our life, who is going with the flow, uh, not going against the grain, doing what you're told, submissive to authority. And I say that in terms of the worst aspects of authority, obviously. Still pondering what the good aspects of authority, and of course, I mean in this world, I don't mean, the order of the Most High in us. But all of that references how strong your signal is, how weak your signal is, your diet, the way you think, the way you feel, the way you eat, the way you live, the way you breathe. And so, my title today is The Hurdles of Self Love. And I'm going to tell you how I got to that particular title in just a second. But I chose this image and this background as the starting point, to underscore the overall point that I'm going to be making today, which is identifying that there are a lot of hurdles to really developing and embodying self love. And I feel like we should all know that, because it's kind of something that everybody says all the time, like, oh, you have to love yourself, or you have to develop self love, or you have to develop self worth, right? It's kind of something that is very common, right, in the collective consciousness. But it doesn't really feel like human beings have done a good job at really embodying self love. And that's the microcosm and the macrocosm, obviously, because our inability to really hone in on and harness and embody self love is a reflection of the political system, the healthcare industry, right? The pharmaceutical world, the health and well being of our species, right? So before I get into this, I want to have a couple of announcements. I rescheduled the book club meeting for last week. This is for my membership channel. And I rescheduled it to tomorrow, which is Sunday, which is not our normal date to meet, because obviously it's Saturday. But I had asked everyone if they would be okay with us rescheduling it for this Sunday, which is tomorrow. Considering next Saturday is July 5th, and I know everybody's going to be turning up. So I did get a response from Marcellus today. He's down to meet tomorrow. So as long as I got one person confirmed, we are good to go. And I will post the link for the live stream for tomorrow at 2 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, from 2 o'clock to 3:30 p.m. We will be continuing in our book, Mastery Through Accomplishment by Hazrat Inayat Khan, one of my favorite books. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. So for ZaZaAli membership members, I will post a link for us for that meeting for tomorrow. Also, the group meditation is tomorrow as well at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I am considering doing that live on YouTube. Considering everything going on in the world, I am considering doing it live on YouTube. So I'll let you guys know either way, but whether we do it on YouTube or whether we just do it in the uh, uh, privacy of the membership channel, I will post a link and let you guys know. That will be tomorrow at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for 20 minutes. And I will open the link for the live 10 minutes before our actual start time. Okay? And was that my only announcement? Yes. So Marcellus is in, so book club meeting is tomorrow. And Climbing the Ladder of Yourself, I have a second meeting with a group of queens tomorrow, which I'm looking forward to as well. Okay, so what made me come up with this topic, the hurdles of self-love? I'm going to get into the specifics of that in just a second. Guys, I have the window open because it's a beautiful day in LA, but I also have the window open, so that means, somebody might walk past and be talking or hear dogs barking. You know how that goes. But either way, as long as I don't hear anything too melodramatic, we will keep it open because I always prefer fresh air to air conditioning, etc. So, we're going to talk about the hurdles of self-love and then also the means of cultivating self-love. And one of those most important, especially in this timeline, ways of cultivating self-love is through cultivating and harnessing your chi or life force energy, also known as prana. Prana is the principle of energy exhibited in all living things, which distinguishes them from a lifeless thing. It is the active principle of life, vital force. Prana is energy, vitality, and power. Prana is the foundation and essence of all life, the energy and vitality that permeates the entire universe. It is the vibration between atoms. Chi is the energy of life itself, a balance of yin and yang, a positive and negative electromagnetic energy which flows through everything in the universe and connects all things. Now, I'm making a correlation between the video I'm about to show right now, which if you joined me live last time, I had some technical difficulties. I uploaded all of this content in the back channel of the site because the site tells me now that I can do that, right? New upgrade. And so I try it out and it doesn't work at all. So I'm going to play the videos that I had ready to play in that video to reiterate the original point that I had about alchemizing the situation, right? So we're still on that vibration. We're on the chi, life force energy, prana vibration, but we're also on the hurdles of self-love, intention and focus, because this is something that I see repeating itself in different ways in all of our lives in a number of different ways. And in this post 2020 world where I talk about us having to purge and dissect and to dilute and to release the fear-based consciousness and how that's playing out in all of our lives. Well, we're down to the nitty-gritty now. And I always want to be positive in terms of the overall focus, but I want to make sure that we all feel the urgency of the moment. This is not the best time to be just coming into consciousness. Even if you're just coming into consciousness, I salute you for that, because that in itself is an accomplishment. But we've been under so many different life trials and as individuals and then in the collective consciousness as of late, that we should be at a certain level of consciousness and awareness if we've been paying attention, if we've been working on ourselves, if we've been mindful of our situational awareness, and if we have consistently been striving to climb the ladder of ourselves, which is also will be another repeated thing for multiple reasons, but I'll get into that in just a second. So I want to start out by sharing that original video that I was trying to show you guys before about the ancient Tibetan stupas and the correlation between the consciousness aspect and then the individual, resonance aspect, and then these ancient temples and these ancient buildings that were bringing I'll say natural resources together to create these high-powered electromagnetic fields of energy, right? So that's going to be repetitive in terms of those physical buildings or intentional, spaces for that. And then the other thing that's going to be repetitive is the chi and life force energy aspect of this. Because when I say energy and grid stabilizers, I'm talking about human beings that can resonate and emit the type of frequency and vibration that we're going to see discussed pertaining to these ancient buildings. So remember when the lady showed the bell in the previous video, that one did actually go through, and she was talking about the power of that energetic resonance and how now the bells are just sitting on the ground all over the world. So we have that in context, and I didn't put that video in here. I should have maybe, but if you guys watched that video, then you saw that. And then the stupa context, and then the obelisk, which I'm actually going to show and reference the electrum aspect of that. So we have these physical representations of high vibrational energy, high powered energy. And I'm saying for those of us who are intentionally living and mindful of the times and are striving to live in a certain light of consciousness, we can also maintain those type of frequencies and have similar, if not more powerful impact in terms of our physical surroundings. And then where one or more or two or more are gathered in my name, right? But I'm not talking about just regular people. I'm talking about high powered, high vibrational human beings. So let's get into the video. First of all, I have 3 videos that I want to play there, and they're all reiterating this point that I'm making, just in different ways. So let's start with this first one. And you guys, I am sharing content that might get this video demonetized because it's just, I pull information from a lot of different sources, and some of it will pop up and some of it doesn't. But that's why it's important for you guys to share and reciprocate in terms of the time and energy, because I'm intentionally, doing my part to raise the vibration, to not just be talking about celebrities and gossip culture and, World War III and all of the crazy chaos that's happening around us. This is a very intentional, focused message to help us maintain a certain frequency and elevate in our consciousness in lieu of all of those things, right? So if this video is demonetized, which there is potential that it is, some of the videos might get, oh, you can't play this, but we won't have a strike. Well, then I'll trim those videos out and just repost this content on my website because, again, you know what I mean? Reciprocity is a beautiful thing. So my Cash App information is in the description, as well as my website where you can purchase my workshops, my books, etc. But more on that later. Let me go ahead and share this particular screen. Okay, there we go. And then I'm going to, can I minimize this? Don't start with me, please, StreamYard. No. Okay, well then let's just do this. Okay, there we go.
We have here on Earth is we have this kind of electric circuit that the Earth makes with its ley lines and with connecting points with the magnetosphere and the surface of the Earth on which we live. And we have a symbiotic relationship with this spaceship called Earth. So as individuals, we feel it, we suspect it. But as groups of individuals, we have a lot of power, and we can, as Sasha says, as a collective, or I like to say a collection of consciousnesses, we can tap into this power, and we can realize that the Earth, yeah, it's made of electrons and protons, yes, but it's made of much more than that, because we get down to this level. This is a classic Bohr model of an atom, so we can understand it. But in our community, we understand a proton to look like this, that it's holographic, that there are frequencies and energies that make up this proton, and that they resonate with each other a lot like color does. In fact, we call the subatomic particles colors. And when we blend them together in real life, we get a of course, a vignette, and we can see a picture of a sunflower. Like I took my students in my lab one day and I said, tell me what you see here. And they said, oh, it's a sunflower. I said, no, look closer. And they looked, they were looking for Waldo or a pattern of a camel or something. And they couldn't. And I said, well, look, here, use this. It's a shot glass upside down called a loop. And I said, look very close and tell me what you see. And they saw this. Oh, yes. Now we see the dots and the rows and columns that are lined up to make the colors that make the sunflower. And I said, what else do you notice? And they said, well, there's a lot of space between these dots. There's white space. There's space between the black. It's not really that dense. And I said, you're exactly right. So if we increase the amount of each of those in proportion, the sunflower looks like this. And that's exactly what we see in physics. We see protons, even though they look all the same, they weigh different amounts. They have different amounts of this subatomic energy, which makes up the proton. And as for the electrons, we don't really know anything about them. We don't know where they come from. We know how to generate them. We know how to store them. We know how to control them. We're using them right now to talk around the world, but we don't know where they come from. We rub a magnet by wire, and the electrons just flow. And so there you go. That's all we know about electrons, really. The rest is just an experiment in consciousness, which kind of looks like this. When we mathematically model consciousness, this is what we get. I think David Sereda will agree with me. This is this foam that is made when you get a bunch of people together. But when they line up, when people can align their consciousnesses one with another, we get remarkable power, remarkable fields. And the Tibetans knew this, and they built structures which were designed to teach people how this technology is accessed through your consciousness. And pay no attention to that guy. They built inside this building, the Patala, which up until about 100 years ago was the tallest building in the world. They built this, which is called a stupa. And before I do that, I'm going to show you a test.
I got to go back.
Pay no attention to that guy. They built inside this building, the Patala, which up until about 100 years ago was the tallest building in the world. They built this.
You went past this one too quickly. So look at this building. I mean, he literally barely even got a chance to look at it. But you see the coils here, right? And these are the same coils. These are very similar to the Tesla coils, but then now also that they've done those radiographic, hope I'm saying that right, radiographic, searches underneath the pyramid, right? Where they can see beneath the ground and deep into the surfaces of the pyramids. And they found that there are these very, very, very long coils underneath the pyramid. So we're talking about mass creation of energy, high vibrational energy, right? In terms of the image that we're seeing. And then I would imagine that that's pure gold. So there's that too.
Which is called a stupa. And before I do that, I'm going to show you Tesla's version of it, because Tesla saw the same thing in the late 1800s and built this. But the Tibetans in the 7th century, they built this. And so when I was down in the basement of Patala, and I'm not even going to tell you how we got.
So I see two things here. Pardon me for interrupting the video. The gentleman speaking, his name is Brooks Agnew. But this, I see two things. I see the Vesica Pisces, which is the symbolic physical representation of the black womb. Looks like a female vaginal, area. And then I also see that arch with that middle key right there, right? And I think I showed this in the last video, which is very reminiscent from Moorish Spain, right? So, so the architectural representations in a lot of the ancient, architecture are also kind of leaving us clues in terms of how to tap into this frequency. And it's not, what am I trying to say? It's not by happenstance that the Moors in Spain incorporated a lot of sacred geometry into their tiles, into the, you know, the decoration of those temples and whatnot. So yes, it's in the Tibetan, you know, it's in all ancient cultures, this technology, so to speak.
Down there, it's a remarkable story. We were looking at this, and I asked my Tibetan guide, what are we looking at? What is this thing? He said it's a stupa. It's designed to transport the soul of a Panchen Lama through the fourth dimensional Stargate, which you can see kind of on the ceiling there. And I said, well, you know, I don't know much about stupas or ancient technology, but this looks a lot like a Tesla coil. I'm looking at this, and I'm seeing the coil structure and the collective dish. In fact, I see the ribbons kind of coming down from the top bowl. It looks to me like stylized electricity. And then when I got back to the States, I took that structure and I overlaid it with a Tesla coil. And sure enough, it's exact match. In fact, I thought to myself, wait a minute. Tesla probably saw the same thing the Tibetans saw, except he built it out of wire. And the Tibetans built it out of gold.
So I want to stop that there, and real quick, I'm going to reshare my screen. Where is it at? I got so many tabs up. Okay, stop screen. And now let's come back to here and share my screen again. So real quick, before I get into the second video, which is from Water is Life, which was the other video that I tried to play. And then I have one more that I'm going to play a little bit later after I make this point about pH. But I want to take a pause for the cause real quick and promote a couple of things that I have going on. The first thing, I have a Overcoming Anxiety group coaching session and interactive program that is available for purchase on my website. The link is in the description for that. You also get a complimentary 30-day access to my membership channel. This includes a 30-minute beginner yoga session, video hosted by yours truly, a group coaching session for overcoming anxiety and the complexities of stress, nighttime stretching and mindful meditation, forgiveness meditation, breathing technique video that is also by me, worksheets and focus guide, and then my ebook, Practical Steps to Health and Well-Being. So I have obviously made this workshop because I have dealt with anxiety, which definitely increased in a substantial way post 2020. And so I created a body of work and a focal point for those of you guys who struggle with anxiety to help you get through that and to come out on the other side of the stress, the fear, the worry, etc. So I will put the link for that in the description. And then also, I had a very powerful conversation with a good brother, a king in his own right, this weekend. And he really kind of honed in and reminded me of the importance of my work with women and my Climbing the Ladder of Yourself workshop. I'm hosting 2 monthly workshops now. It's a 6-month program, and they're both doing really, really good. And it's been just as beneficial for me as it is for these women. But I'm going to open up another group workshop, a 6-month in-depth and interactive program for ladies only. And again, having this conversation just really reminded me, I've been trying to find ways between my one-on-one consultations and different workshops that I've offered between my 90-day programs, right? Trying to find ways where I can work with people, and now women in particular, in ways that are most beneficial but still cost effective, right? Where it's something that you guys can afford, but it's also something that, you know, is properly compensating me for my time and all of the work that goes into it, because those ladies that are in my current workshops know a lot of work goes into this on my behalf. But 6-month in-depth and interactive program for ladies only. There is a maximum of 5 spaces available. Once the 5 spaces sell out, then you will, if you click the link, it'll ask you to, if you want to sign up for the wait list, and you can send me an email for that. The cost is $100 per month from July to December of 2025, and that includes a 30-minute phone call consultation with Zaza, monthly group workshop, a monthly group workshop, community group page, complimentary access to the ZaZaAli membership for the entirety of the program, so the whole 6 months. And yeah, this is something that everything we're talking about right now is underscored in this particular work, but specifically honed into women. And a couple of things, obviously, the not obviously, but the topic, the hurdles of self-love, actually came up for me in a video that I did for the Climbing the Ladder of Yourself group, because the metaphor that I used about the boiling frog, which I'm going to get to in just a second, actually, we can no, I'll get to that in just a second, because I do want to play the other video. But the point that I was making about the boiling frog, and a comment that someone left on the video, which I'll share, but it really, what came up in my spirit, in my mind, was like, we're so inundated and bombarded by the things of this world that we have not cultivated the time, the energy, the intention, the focus, and the capabilities to really, really hone in on and cultivate self-love individually, but then in the collective as well. And I don't want to paint too broad of a brush, right? Because some of us have figured it out, are figuring it out, or are going to figure it out, right? By any means necessary. But when it comes to, we started talking about the problems, what's the solution? Well, it depends on the problem, number one. And then when we start talking about conditions of the mind, conditions of the heart, spiritual, lack of spiritual focus, lack of connectivity to source, lack of self-love, lack of self-awareness, right? All of those things that constitute going back to the stupa, going back to these physical buildings and these representations of power and high vibration, and in our inability to tap into that God type consciousness and frequency, because we're in a rat race. We're on a hamster wheel. You know what I'm saying? And when it's not about just paying bills, survival, it's also about what's in the air, what's in the water, what's in the food. Then it's the technology, right? Then it's the dysfunction that comes with the families and the upbringing. Then it's the tethering that all women have to the insanity and chaos that sometimes comes with being a woman in this world, then being a black woman in this world, then the insanity and chaos that comes with being a man, then being a black man, right? Et cetera, et cetera. All of these things are either adding to or taking away from our energetic resonance. It's either building up and empowering the magnetic field or doing the exact opposite. So this group and all of this conversation today is all about helping us to climb the ladder of ourselves, to magnify the frequency, to be powerful in our intentions and in our convictions, and to make decisions, to decide. That's one of the biggest things that I know from working with people, all these in all these different facets, and even just studying and being mindful of people, our inability to choose. And we have a very strong inability to choose because we don't think we can have the things our hearts really truly desire. So the choosing that we're usually doing is like that lower rank, you know what I mean? We're not even at the best case scenario, which would be choice A, right? We're down somewhere like HIJK, choosing from that space, right? Because we don't even think we deserve A through D, let alone, right? So you get my point. But I did want to promote and advertise both of those things because I'm doing my part. And I think that this is a very, very good method for me to sort of solve that intention of working with women, of, you know what I mean? It being financially feasible, but also beneficial for me. So I'm going to put the link for this as well in the description. And again, if you get there's 5 spots available. If the link is not available, then you can sign up for a upcoming workshop in the future. So let me come back to and thank you guys for, being able to tap in with me and listen in as I promote the things that I have going on in my work and my business. I definitely appreciate that. Where is my share screen? Okay, here we go. Share screen and two. All right, cool. And so make sure I'm there. All right, cool. And let's bring up
Today we cover a very interesting topic. It is one of the most curious and neglected fields of human research, and that is the magnetic fields not only of man, but of the universe and the smallest atom. By studying magnetism, we discover that every human body is surrounded by an etheric or energy field. We sometimes refer to this energy field as an aura, but it is not the real aura we think of in metaphysics. This magnetic field is an area of energy. This energy area forms an egg-like atmospheric sheath around the physical body, usually extending 1 to 3 meters from it in each direction. This energy field is the basis of virtue, because this energy field is responsible for the reality, functionality, and protective power to move the emotions, thoughts, and attitudes of the person around whom this magnetic field is gathered. In other words, the individual, if he is normal mentally, emotionally, and physically, if he follows a set of laws, this magnetic field forms a huge protection, and the individual who follows these laws is healthy. He is constantly able to handle infections and all kinds of difficulties. It will help to heal wounds. It will help to recover the use of functions and organs. And if we are deprived of some part of the body, it will try to compensate for it. As long
Okay, so I want to stop there because it made the point that I wanted to make. And this full video is in my membership channel for those of you guys who are interested. It's called Master Your Mind, Body, and Soul. But the point about the magnetic field, right? Man has a magnetic field, and then the universe has a magnetic field, right? And he used the word protection. And I correlate that word protection to the concept of the armor of God in the scriptures, right? So we're talking about these different means of increasing and expressing and expanding, I should say, your energetic resonance, not only for, all of this woo-woo stuff we're talking about, right? Although none of it's woo-woo, but to actually make change and have impact in your life in real time. And the stakes are higher now. And I'll say this because it's true in a sense, but then we'll walk it back, that it's harder to maintain frequency right now, because we're getting bombarded by on all different levels, right? 1,000 different levels that most of us aren't even cognizant of. But then with that in context, those of us that are able to maintain frequency, that are able to maintain some semblance of clarity and, self and centeredness, right? In the midst of this, that is when that building of the kingdom of heaven on earth, so to speak, in terms of the individual representation, as well as the collective consciousness, really starts to come into play. Let me bring my screen back here now. Oh no, let's do this last video. Let me just go ahead and get this out the way so I don't have to come back to this. So I'm going to stop that there, because that's the point that I kind of wanted to hone in on. This is called The Secrets of Water. I'm not sure if this is still on YouTube or if it's not. Yeah, it may be. If it is, you can go and watch the full documentary. It's also available in the library of my membership channel, I think in the Jewels tab, if I remember correctly. But the intention, and this is why, let me bring my screen back around here. This is why I don't argue about religion anymore. Although I never really argued about religion. Well, maybe at a certain point I did. But let me bring us back to my other screen real quick. This is why I don't argue about religion, because the bottom line is, as with anything, as with everything, is it lifting you up and increasing you and expanding you, or is it shrinking you? Right? Is it bringing you closer to love, bringing you closer to God, to a knowledge of self, to some level of peace, or not? So in the, in the reference where they talk about whether it's Judaism, Islam, Christianity, that in spaces of spirituality and in religion, when people are praying over this water, that the water starts to crystallize in a sacred geometry type way. And then the water that is fluoridated, that is in all of our water system, especially in America, is black and moldy. Not even black, I should say moldy, right? And representing something that's, in terms of like the energy of it and the noise of it, that is very scattered and chaotic, which ironically is where a lot of people are in their state of consciousness. This is another reason why I'm trying to work directly with women, because a lot of sisters are struggling to maintain some semblance of peace and inner calm in the midst of everything else going on around them. We have the overcoming anxiety workshop that I just told you about. We have the climbing the ladder of yourself for women, and then this is also my change your mind from lack to abundance workbook. Uh, the screen is like not, you know what I mean? Not okay. There we go. But anyway, it's available in ebook and paperback. And the Change Your Mind from Lack to Abundance workbook is a culmination of a lot of the stuff that we're talking about, a roadmap, so to speak, to assist you on your own timeline, obviously at your own pace. But to really start asking more sort of in-depth questions and having a more in-depth conversation with yourself and looking at your life beyond just, I did what I had to do to get where I had to go, right? Our sort of modus operandi. But Change Your Mind from Lack to Abundance is my workbook, which is available in ebook and paperback format. There's something going on with this system. I think it might just be that I needed a computer. I just had it like updated and had a lot of stuff removed and some viruses. Something was trying to attack the computer, but I'm pretty sure I just need a new computer because my bandwidth is not that high to be able to, play all my videos smoothly and whatnot. So it is what it is. I'm working on it, but nothing is going to stop me from being able to have these type of conversations with you guys in the meantime. I just have to, find a better way to. It's like when I use Canva, when I don't use Canva, it works faster. But anyway, so I'm not even going to go there. The hurdles of self-love, right? This is the message on the video that I wanted to share with you guys that prompted this other video that I did for climbing the ladder of yourself. But he said, the more frog, and please don't take this personal that I'm highlighting your statement, because this is a bigger point that I want to make that is not particular like I'm trying to, go at it with you about this point, because that's not it at all. There's a bigger point I want to make here. The more the frog has love of self, the more the frog will be aware that it is boiling in water, right? Now this goes in cohesion. Wait, did I say cohesion? I'm gonna play this short video because sometimes I don't think everybody knows about the legend of the frog in the boiling water, right? So let me just come back here and I'm gonna read this from the start. Put the frog in a vessel of water and start heating the water. As the temperature of the water rises, the frog is able to adjust its body temperature accordingly. The frog keeps on adjusting with increase in temperature. Just when the water is about to reach a boiling point, the frog is not able to adjust anymore. At that point, the frog decides to jump out. The frog tries to jump, but is unable to do so because it lost all its strength in adjusting with the water temperature. Very soon, the frog dies. What killed the frog? Many of us will say the boiling water, but the truth is its inability to decide when it had to jump out killed it. And I know this is a way more extreme point of the original point that I was making about decisions, but the concept of a slow death is a real thing. maybe not like physical death, but like mentally and spiritually and emotionally, like a little piece of you, sort of being chipped away consistently because you aren't chasing any dreams. You aren't, upscaling the trajectory, right? You're not climbing the ladder of yourself. You're not getting better, getting clearer, getting sharper, getting more focused, right? Learning through trial and tribulation and continuing to create, to grow, to build, etc. Right? And so with the context of what's happening in the world right now, it's dangerous to not be paying attention to your diet. It's dangerous to not be mindful of buying food that has, seeds in it versus food that doesn't have seeds in it. We just saw a video about the importance of water, and it just kind of, the longer video is way more in depth about the importance and the value of water. And so they've weaponized our water against us. You have to know that. You have to be mindful of that. You have to have courage and conviction when you go in those doctors and you got a child and they're trying to force you to put something in your baby's arms, right? So there's a lot of things that are happening around us, and on a spiritual level is to fortify us, right? But the thing is, the discernment of, okay, my temperature is regulating because the environment is getting a little warmer, so I'm adjusting. Okay, I'm still adjusting because it's getting a little warmer. But then that spidey senses, that divine intuition, that spiritual discernment at a certain point is supposed to kick in the relationship with your man, with your baby daddy, with your children's mother, with your ex-wife, with your wife, etc., with the girl that you just have a little fun with on the weekends, whatever. I'm just saying, none of that really, just came to my mind. Or at the job where, people snap in those type of environments. They've been getting, minimized or abused or devalued for 10, 20 years. And then all of a sudden they go in and snap. Yeah, body couldn't adjust to the boiling water anymore. And I couldn't jump out. So something's got to give. And this in particular pertains to women, and this ongoing thing about how we neglect ourselves for the sake of the greater good. And then you see these women who are in their 40s and 50s and 60s that are like, damn, I don't even, you know what I mean? I don't even really know who I am. I've had so many conversations with women like that. So sometimes it's the subtle aspects of this, and then other times it's the extreme aspects of it. Not being able to get out of a violent relationship, and then all of a sudden it has to end in tragedy. So even with the Cassie situation and the, everything that we're talking about with the Diddy trial, yes, we should be, talking about the Stockholm syndrome, right? And you become attached to your oppressor and all that stuff, and your self-esteem is broken, and he's broken you, and this is all pimp science, to be honest. This is partially why the Black community is on trial in this situation, because everything that he was doing and is doing is pimp science. Maybe there's some I'll talk about that in another video, but I'm just saying. That's why a lot of people don't understand why he's in court right now. They're like, what are you talking about? We used to do this all the time. You know what I'm saying? So more on that later. I'm still going to do that other video, but let me stay on track. So sometimes this is extreme things, and then sometimes this is subtle things. And the subtle things, it's the shit that creep back on you. It's the things that crept back up on me in 2020, 21, 2022. When the devil made a path into our consciousness through these different states of fear, and now you on a frequency of fear, and now some fear from your childhood is coming back up because now you have the bandwidth is low enough for that to creep back in. We're being triggered with all of this stuff about sexual trauma and abuse, and so now you got all men and women all over the world being re-triggered because the frequency bandwidth is in alignment to this ritual that's happening in that courtroom. So when we talk about the hurdles of self-love, right? And let me come back to my notes because there's a couple of things I wanted to say in between those videos and then I forgot. So the first one was the video that showed the electromagnetic field of the human body and how it's like a constant outward and inward flow. That's the correlation to the microcosmic orbit, right? In the Taoism, which is why the breath and the science of the breath is so important, as well as yoga, Reiki, right? Acupressure, acupuncture, right? Chinese medicine, um, and a lot of the other, sort of energetic healing modalities. Cupping, right? That, taps into the microcosmic orbit and helps that energy to continue to make that circular or spinning type of vibration. This increases the energetic resonance. The chakra system, which are the energy systems, they're all aligned. If I could make well, let me stay on track. All of these things are relative. So on the left, you have the emotional, the upwards and downward spiral. And this is also included in my Change Your Mind from Lack to Abundance workbook. You have the upward and downward spiral in terms of energy. So this is one of the major, especially for women, hurdles of self-love, because we get so stuck in these lower rungs of the emotional scale, right? Whether it's frustration or hatred or anger or bitterness or envy or jealousy, right? Or all the self-sabotage emotional, right, experiences that we can have. A lot of times we get stuck in these spaces, and a lot of times the continuity of that behavior is based on the experiences that we're having in our relationships. Right, that downward spiral. You look at the different timelines in your life where you had downward spirals, and then figure out were you in a relationship or were you not. Right. And so going back to the stupa, going back to the electromagnetic field or resonance of the human being, the upward spiral is the goal. This is one of the reasons why I titled it Climbing the Ladder of Yourself, because we're trying to get up here. This is where all the magic happens. This is the energy that fuels the imagination, that makes the imagination manifest. This is where, going back to the point, and I'm glad I remember because I forgot the video that was talking about the prayer in the churches, mosques, etc., and how the prayer is changing the energetic resonance of the water and crystallizing it, right? This is why I don't do the anti-religious thing, but it's the intention and the energy behind the prayer that actually determines whether it is a high frequency, high resonance prayer, or whether it's a desperate or desolate prayer. Now, I would have loved if they would do, or maybe we should do, right? Because we should be conducting these studies for ourselves, going into a space in an environment that is not conducive to a high energy, right? A trap house came to my mind, and obviously we wouldn't do this in a trap house, but just to give you some context of what, let's say the Trap House Museum that TI has in Atlanta, right? A staple for selling crack. This is the frequency we're showing Tibetan stupas with coils and made out of gold and harnessing energy, and then we're creating trap museums. But let me stay focused. So I wonder what the same situation would be if they gathered the parishioners that were in a, let's say a church-like setting, and put them in an environment like that, and then have them do those same prayers after they walk through the museum, though. So stand in the jail cell for a little while, and then go and see how they may turn the cocaine into crack rock and all of that, and the guns and the weapons and all of that, and then prayed after that. I wonder what impact that would have. I'm just saying. So one of the biggest hurdles of women, in terms of all of us, not just women, but the hurdles of self-love, is getting up this emotional scale. Because a lot of times that negative energy, those negative emotions, those negative experiences that our parents and that the world have had to live through, and so now they want you to live through that shit too. Sometimes, most times it's unconscionable, but still trying to get up this scale. And then you have the pH scale. This is why I always say we're wired for well-being. You can't tell me God wants me to suffer or us to suffer. He's given us, God has, he, she, it, they, all of the above, right? The most high, all in all source energy has given us all the tools to be successful and to be gods on this planet. Now, the pH scale is another measurement in terms of quantifying self-love. Acidic over here is fast food, fried foods, soda, alcohol, constant negative, low vibrational diet, junk food, etc. The middle ground, the neutrality is, where we want to be, actually slightly alkaline. So like 7.5 is the ideal pH scale, right? And then here you have the alkaline, but all of this is based on the type of food you put in your diet, the way you eat, and I would say the way you think and feel too, because it's quantifiable. We could prove it, but that's not what we're here for today. This is another hindrance in terms of self-love for a lot of people. They can't get their diet in check. They've convinced themselves they're not strong enough to fast. Come on, screen. So the scale on the left is of some emotions with different energies. And so at the top, you can see the elevated emotion is more smooth, more consistent. Right here on the left hand side, almost looks like a straight line. And so these are, higher states of consciousness and vibration when in meditation, right? Deep meditation, or in the theta or delta brain waves. I think I'm saying that accurate if I remember correctly, right? When that phase where you're almost asleep, but you're not quite asleep, but your mind is most at rest, so to speak, or least active, I should say. And then the faster frequencies, representing different types of energy. This is gratitude right here. This is appreciation. This is joy. This is love. This is freedom. This is bliss, right? So the higher we get up the scale, the more smooth, the more consistent, the more fluent the frequency is, right? And so as we get down, notice power right here. Power, and then will, and then gratitude, but power, you know what I mean? The jaggedness of that energy, so to speak. And then we could contextualize that because there's different means of power, right? But I'm just saying, can you be, in a space where you're seeking power and seeking peace at the same time? How do you find a middle ground, right? And then, going further down, you have fear, you have guilt, you have shame, you have suffering, you have victim consciousness, right? You have lust. No, you see lust down there? These are survival emotions, right? Lust and pain, right? So imagine when I say the ritual happening in the courtroom, and everybody that's in there that's taking all this energy and soaking this energy in is knowingly or unknowingly a part of a ritual. If their spiritual stamina is strong, then they won't have a negative impact. But if it's not, going back to the frequency, then that's a different situation. But the lust frequency is written all over that whole entire trial. The lust frequency is how the devil gets in. All of the cases, again, with all of the celebrities, what are they bringing them up for? Not IRS fraud, although that might be coming. You know what I mean? Not, wigged out, although Chris Brown is now facing an assault charge, things like that. But the ongoing continuity of all of these charges, whether they be civil or criminal, are all based on the lust frequency. So when we say God is in the details, yeah, God is in the details. Turns out it takes a certain level of sexual discipline to be a high vibrational being. And if you are in a committed relationship and you are with a mutually high vibrational being, then you guys are already going to know this science and be applying it. You know what I mean? So we don't even have to talk about that because this, again, the equally yoked concept has levels too. Emotions are energy in motion. All energy is frequency, and all frequency carries information. This is why there's no such thing as casual sex, because that man that's laying on top of you, or that woman that's under you or on top of you or whatever, is carrying information, frequency information that you're downloading. Again, it depends on your vibrational resonance and your energy in terms of the impact. Okay, but the higher your vibrational resonance is, the less likely you're going to be having experiences to have to determine the impact. That's what I'm saying. I hope this makes sense. I've referenced this. We're still on the hurdles of self-love, because look at this chart. If you are down here, let's say from anger, right? Because, well, let's say from control down. Because, yeah, struggling with control or trying to project or, control other people, right? It's contextualized, right? So we'll start from control, anger, fear, guilt, shame, suffering, um, et cetera, right? Victimization, pain, and lust, right? If you're somewhere in this bandwidth of consciousness most of the time, the concept of self love is going to be very foreign and very difficult to cultivate. It might sound good in the book. You can quote the videos. You can reference what the poet said. You know what I mean? You can do the affirmations, et cetera, et cetera. But if you're living in these spaces in your consciousness consistently, doesn't mean it can't be done. But it does mean that, the hurdles that you have to overcome, depending on how low you are on this totem pole, is what's going to determine how difficult the hurdles are. Right? Some of us, don't have anger issues. We just got issues with self-love. So we don't project our anger on other people. We take it out on ourselves. So that's not a person that's going to end up in jail for wigging out on somebody, for randomly breaking something or hitting a random person because they can't control their emotions. That's somebody who's probably going to end up in the bed, with all of the curtains closed, tucked underneath the covers, struggling to get out of the bed on a day-to-day basis and make a decision. That's two different ends of the spectrum. So I've referenced this book, The Rabbit Effect, before, Live Longer, Happier, and Healthier with the Groundbreaking Science of Kindness. And it's referencing this rabbit story. The story begins in 1978 with Dr. Naram and his lab of researchers who, as a group, performed a study on rabbits in order to establish the relationship between a high-fat diet and heart health diet. Pause. I want us to remember the Tibetan stupa and the energetic vortex, the coil and the energy of the upward movement and the increase in the expansion of the vibration and the healing properties, right? And then we saw the electromagnetic field of the human being, right? So there's a resonance and electrical charge that's happening there, right? Then he talked about the web of the universe and this consciousness, this mass consciousness that is an electric energy, right? Okay, coming back to the story. Establish the relationship between a high-fat diet and heart health. Okay, so they're giving these rabbits unhealthy food. That's the reference to the high-fat diet, right? Instead of the expected, now long-proven result, his discovery that kindness can cause rabbits to be healthier was a potentially much larger paradigm shift. In his study, Dr. Naram analyzed the number of fatty deposits in the small blood vessels of a group of New Zealand white rabbits after they were fed a diet high in fat. Now, I'm emphasizing when we say a diet high in fat, we're talking about bad food. Okay, because, some of us are like, oh, I have a diet and have high fat, it doesn't bother me. But you might not be able to grab the depth of the study, right? So rabbits eat grass and plants, okay? The team expected that the rabbits would have fatty deposits in their small blood vessels that were commensurate with their high cholesterol levels, but instead, the unexpected result was that a significant number of the rabbits did not. After much examination, the team discovered that the group of rabbits with far healthier blood vessels was under the care of an especially kind postdoctoral student who treated the criminals, wow, I said criminals, Freudian slip, the animals with love and patience when handling them. A second similar study focusing on the type of care the rabbits received was done, which confirmed that that kind of treatment can in fact lead to healthier rabbits. Dr. Harding uses the study described above to introduce the more profound ideas that both rabbits and people thrive in community, that health is bolstered by love, connection, and purpose, and that kind treatment in general can modify health on a molecular, individual, interpersonal, and global level. Unfortunately, many people have few opportunities for positive interaction. That's a hell of a thing. Unfortunately, many people have few opportunities for positive interaction. That's so unacceptable. We are epically failing in that department and suffer, that's me, not him, and suffer preventable health consequences that cannot be reversed by our limited biomedical model of practice. To illustrate the effects of kindness or the lack thereof, she leads the reader down the path of her career through her education and practice of medicine, all while providing concrete examples using stories drawn from interactions she has with her own patients, as well as providing the hard scientific evidence needed to back up her hypothesis. Now, again, the hurdles of self love. Why is it so hard? Because many, if not most of us, have never been properly loved. So when she says in the description of the book, when it says, unfortunately, many people have few opportunities for positive interaction, where does that fall on this scale? Right? And then we could say, well, that's not my experience, or that, that is my experience. That's one aspect of this. And then are you the person that creates the positive interactions for the people that might not normally have positive interactions? This is how we, to shift the narrative and change the vibration on our planet. That's the thing that I'm trying to emphasize. Like, yeah, you can live in poverty and have a low quality diet, but if you have love around you, if you have a mother that really cares about you and a father that hugs you and pours into you and invests in you, it can change the vibrational and energetic resonance for you to come up out of that situation. There's always an exception to the rule, right? So we all know somebody that came from the most difficult, most trying, most traumatic, most chaotic, most suffering, most abandonment, most neglect, right? And that exception from the rule is able to come out on the other side. Why? It was either fostered in an environment of self-love, or they cultivated an environment within themselves of self-love. Even if it was just being so determined to get out of poverty, being so determined to get your mother out of poverty, that's love. That's a very strong, consistent, insistent, energetic resonance. Now that can sometimes later down the line, right? There's voids because you were so money motivated at a certain point, or so business motivated, and then you look up and, you know what I mean? No wife, no husband, or bad relationships with family, or cut everybody off because you had tunnel vision, that type of thing. So I'm just saying it's all about balance. But still, this is important for us to know in the era of genetically modified food. Oh, they putting shots in the salad. I mean, just all the they're printing meat, right? All the negative. Oh my God, that in itself makes me need a drink, and I don't even drink. But you know what I mean? Pour me a glass of bourbon or something, because whew, I'm just kidding. But I'm saying, if I was drinking, it wouldn't be bourbon. It would be like some wine. I have a low tolerance for alcohol. So this is something for us to be cognizant of in the era of talking about food and quality, lack thereof, food shortages and whatnot. There's another aspect of this science. This is all alchemy. This is a perfect example of alchemy. You have the lead is the food. The lead is the high fat diet. The way you transmute the impact that the lead or the high fat diet has on the overall body and condition of this person or life form is to give it love. And then it can counteract and still boost, right? And in the other video, he said, the cells are mini batteries. This is why the way you talk to yourself is so critical, because the way you talk to yourself is the way you talk to your cells. And it might not be something like, this, I'm not going to finish college, right? Something like that. You're beating yourself up because you didn't finish school, or something, a real life type situation. It's not like you're screaming to your cells, you're going to be punished because you didn't. No, the body is way too advanced for that. But the energy that is cultivated and created within you, and we somewhere down here, right? If you're in a space of beating yourself up consistently because of something in your past, or we're in this wavelength, right? Okay, so I feel like I made the point about that. And again, all of these things are either strengthening and empowering your electromagnetic field or weakening them. This is from the Change Your Mind from Lack to Abundance workbook. I just gave some layers of identifying all of these levels of us, because we're complicated. All of us are complicated and complex. We're living way too deep in this surface level shit. That's actually an oxymoron, but I think you get the point. We're way too, focused on being surface level for my liking, right? And that's in the collective consciousness, but that's intentional. We know that. So you've got mental health, spiritual health, emotional health, and physical health. We're talking about the hurdles of self-love and the energetic resonance of all of us as individuals, right? So mental, you have education, seeking knowledge and intelligence, communication, master or servant of language, willpower, discipline and focus, harnessing the power of thought and intuition. All of these things are relative to all of us, whether we know it or not. You might be gung-ho on fine-tuning all these aspects of yourself, or you may not be cognizant of any of this at all. It's still something that applies to your life. All of us, all the time. Spiritual self, soul, consciousness, and awareness, chi, life force, energy, the science of breath, connection to nature, religious or spiritual practices, seeking higher states of consciousness and intuition. All of these things will give you a great idea, appraisal in terms of your overall well-being. Just contemplating these things, being intentional about these things. Emotional self, intimate reflections, relationships are mirrors. Self-love, self-worth, heart and mind cohesion, compassion, heart chakra, prioritizing how you feel. These are the remedies, or some of the remedies and some of the recipes or focal points for being in this world and not of this world right now. The emotional self is so critical right now, because it's the aspect of humanity that is most neglected. It's why we're the most out of balance. Excuse me. The physical self, intimate relationships, and then relationships, sexual partners, deeper connection or lack thereof, self-love, self-worth. Your body is your temple, physical reality, physical realm, finances, material world. I mean, I call these 4 different rooms of yourself. And then the question is asked in the book, which room do you spend most of your time in? It's an important question. And so coming back now to the chi and the life force, energy or prana, this is the underlying emphasis when it comes to how we breathe, when it comes to how we think, when it comes to how we breathe, when it comes to how we feel, even the yin and yang aspect. Going back to what I was just talking about in terms of the emotional well-being and how most people are out of alignment in that area. That's yin energy. That's where many, if not most men, are struggling and are going to struggle in this timeline, because we're not created in this world to cultivate yin energy. And yin energy is going to be not because obviously we're still talking about balance, so it's not going to be, majority anything, but it is going to, because we're so short in that area, that is the area that needs the most focus right now.
Most men die much quicker than women, and most of them actually die out of heart attacks. They just did a study that shows that anytime a man ejaculates, the heart will pump so fast and there's so much pressure that within the years that he's doing it, he gets a heart attack at a later age. Now you might say, King, you know what, you're wrong with this one. But let me tell you something. When you practice semen retention, you don't know the power that you hold within. And there is a big reason why in every single scripture, in every single Bible, it says keep semen in unless it's being used to make babies. Now this is something that God has told us and not a man, and now science has proven it as well. So what are you going to say, BS or what?
People don't recognize how sacred sex is. When you have sexual intercourse with another person, there is an exchange that surpasses mental, emotional, and physical. Because when there is intercourse, there's also a soul tie. So this is why breaking up is so difficult, it's traumatic, it's emotional, because it wasn't just a friendship or a relationship or a sexual interaction, it was actually a soul tie. Have you ever seen a couple get together and everything was fine for one of them, and the minute they got together with the other person, every single thing started to go wrong in their life, in their career, in their health, in their relationships, in every way? Sometimes it's as simple as that particular interaction or those multiple interactions. So we have to take care.
So the reason I'm bringing this up, and I'm going to get more into this when I, do this other video I've been telling you guys about, but to me it's all related, right? How strong is your signal? And mind you, this is not, because I know a lot of times when you talk about these things, people start feeling like judged or attacked, like, nah, bro, live your life. One thing I'm not doing is sitting around like, casting stones. We're talking about the timeline that we're in, and strengthening our electromagnetic fields, and the things that we've all become so compliant in weakening ourselves, weakening our minds, weakening our, for men, the quality of your sperm, for women, the condition of your wombs. This is not conjecture. We have overwhelming data that something needs to change, right? So I heard but I just wanted to say that because it's not, judging your lifestyle, or like, if it's working for you, then it's working for you. And if it's not working for you and that's what you committed to, then it's no pressure, I promise you. I read somewhere that, or maybe I heard it in a video, 90% of the men in the industry are sexually fluid, meaning in the, Hollywood world. Maybe that includes athletes, I don't know. 90% sexually fluid, meaning bisexual or. So the importance of having this conversation, and I know that doesn't, that's not a direct correlation for the masses, but in this timeline, being able to transmute that sexual energy for men and women is very critical. I was going to read the passage from Mantak Chia's Sexual Energy book, but I'm already past, I think I'm past the hour and 15-minute mark, and I don't want to hold you guys for too long. But men's leaking or expressing of sexual energy is done through ejaculation, and most of women's sexual energy is released through the menstruation process. So there's a whole nother layer to that. I'm not going to get into that now, but the image in the video is talking about the human aura or electromagnetic field, and showing us a visual representation of the type of things that increase and expand that energy. So on the right, you have an obelisk. And the obelisk, I put in obelisk and I put in electrum, right? Electrum is a blend of silver and gold, which makes this really beautiful, radiant, sort of representation. And they put that on the caps of the obelisks. And so this was, like the Tibetan stupa, a way of using these metals to produce a high vibrational resonance. And then you've got the physical structure of the obelisk, which is a part of it too. But we're talking about increasing the electromagnetic field around these statues, these buildings. And the same way on the right hand side that's represented in a physical way, on the left hand side, this woman who is in meditation, and right there next to her child. So you got the magnitude of the meditation frequency, but then you've also got the connection and the closeness of the baby there that magnifies that energy, right? So these are two different representations of how vibration and energy works with us and for us, or against us. Because even in the video, you see the strong, radiant, powerful lights. Well, just imagine what someone's energetic resonance looks like that's in like war mode. Going back to a lot of the females and the women out here who don't know how to control themselves emotionally, trigger wise, anger wise. It's a big deal. It's a lot bigger than what we're really talking about. And social media is really magnifying it, because now you can go viral doing some weird shit or something that would, you know what I mean, put you in jail. He also talked about in the other video about aligning with consciousness and how it can create remarkable fields of energy. And this is why it's important for us as individuals, because these are lonely times for us just trying to get to the top of this pyramid, right? The pyramid of self, though. Not on some egotistical, yeah, I just want to be at the top so I can be at the top. Like, nah, bro, I'm trying to figure my shit out. I'm trying to be better, do better. I'm trying to climb up this ladder of life, trajectory of life, regardless to whom or what. Right? And so we're addressing the emotional chart. We're addressing the pH chart. We're addressing the glands and the chakra system, and being mindful of how we, express sexual energy, because we understand that that's going to affect how we age. That's why a lot of our uncles look so worn out and whooped in their 40s, because of Hennessy and all those things you keep telling yourself you need to do that you keep putting off. The lack of decisiveness, the lack of internal focus, the lack of committing to your own personal well-being. This is one thing I know about working with people. People start off strong, but it's there. It takes a certain quality of a person in terms of they just sick and tired and ready to get to the next level, or consistently on a road of striving to do better and be better. So some people get on this path when they're just sick and tired of being sick and tired, and it's the lowest low, and then finally I can't. And a lot of those people don't just stick to it, because this is the work that nobody wants to do. You don't get paid for it. You don't get a grade. There's no certificate. There's no award. You know what I mean? Like, no, this is the real work is when nobody's around, right? And so you have those people that are consistently in their lifetime have a drive and a willpower and a focus to be better, to do better. So when we say, well, what's the solution in spiritual war? All of the above. This on the left-hand side represents what I would call an energetic or a grid stabilizer. Now, I don't know if this person, and this is not, because I don't know these people in particular, right? But sometimes what will happen is you have that powerful, strong, light resonance, and then you go around people with low vibrational energy, right? With dusty energy or with mean-spirited, negative energy. And then all of a sudden, the longer you're around them, the weaker your field gets, your energetic signal gets. That's why being the type of people we're around is critical. And then you add the sexual energy into it. Imagine her being on this high vibrational energy, and then, you know what I mean? A man that's operating purely in his lower nature coming and mixing and blending with her energy. A lot of women are committed to relationships like that, let alone like just, might randomly have one. Like, nah, you in a relationship with a dude with a very low vibration, and you know it. So again, like I said, this is with the conversation about all the domestic violence and stuff like that. Like, yeah, we can identify why women stay in those environments, but collectively, as a species of women and in that society, the message needs to be clear and unequivocally: get out. Leave by any means necessary. Do whatever you got to do to get out of that situation and to take your children out of that situation. That should be underscored with every video, every point, every thinking piece, every blog, blah, 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 all of that. Especially in the world of feminism. This is your lane, right? This is how we break the victim consciousness frequency. Yes, you're a victim until you're not. You You know what I'm saying? You can still have the experience and still have the background and not be a victim. It's just one of those stories you check off on the map. You know what I mean? One of those 10 years down the road, this will be a blip on the map. Going through my notes, making sure I said everything I wanted to say. I didn't even show the glands and the chakras, but again, we're talking about the hurdles of self-love and things about ourselves that we ignore and neglect, or the things about ourselves that we can tap into to get to the spaces where we want to go, the people who we want to become, right? Intention is critical. In my father's house, there are many mansions. I wrote that down because of the point that they were making about the religions and, you know, Muslim versus who, you know, the power of the prayer being energized and emphasized by those that are in the practice of prayer. Now we could say, well, what about the church? Does the church have any impact if they were praying in church, right? Well, it depends on the building. It depends on the, you know what I mean? We know some of these churches have some of the most vile and things going on in the background, right? You think that doesn't affect the vibrational resonance? You know what I mean? That's how powerful human beings are. Like, yeah, you can be in a temple that was made out of, you know, these powerful metals or you know, natural resources that normally would have a healing propensity, but now you've inverted it and brought your weird shit and weird energy into the space. A lot of these Catholic diocese pastors, for instance, I don't think a church could hold a high vibration, love based energetic charge while that type of behavior be happening in that building. So again, it's levels to this. Human beings are absolutely that powerful. That's transmutation on a whole other level, though. So I'm going to leave you guys with that. I think I made my point. I wanted to make sure I showed those videos because I was very disappointed at the way that last video played out. Technology sometimes just really stresses me out because all I want to do is just come on here and say what's on my mind and in my heart and then keep it moving. And so I'm glad we made it through. And this video is short enough, but to the point enough. And I think I touched on all the bases I wanted to touch on. So again, if you would like to sign up for my next Climbing the Ladder of Yourself workshop for women only, the link will be in the description. We have 5 spaces. Once those 5 spaces are gone, that link will no longer be active. I also promoted the Overcoming Anxiety workshop, and then I also workshop and program. And then I also promoted the Change Your Mind from Lack to Abundance workbook. This is 3 different modalities and resources that I have created through my work, through my research, through my life, and have given to you for very minimal pricing in order to help you climb the ladder of yourself. So cash apps are definitely welcome and appreciated. Book purchases are welcome and appreciated. And as always, I thank you guys so much for your time, your energy, and attention. And I will see you beautiful people very soon. Peace and love.